Good evening, welcome to Norwalk City School Board District, Norwalk School District Board of Education regular meeting, Tuesday, May 9th at 6:34 p.m. Typically, I've been praying at this time. Since then, we have received a letter from Freedom from Religion to cease praying. So prayer will not continue before our board meetings. It was no intention for us to make anyone feel uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for me to do it publicly. So, I mean, that was something out of my comfort zone. So, we're going to drop it and leave it at that. So we're just going to move on and call the order, roll call.
Mrs. Crawford?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Norris?
Here.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Here.
Mrs. Witt?
Here, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion for adoption of the agenda.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes. Recognition of a retiree.
Yes, tonight we get to honor and recognize Mrs. Coe, a longtime science teacher at Norwalk High School. 21 years as a trucker, and she is finishing up at the end of this month. So Mr. Kane is going to speak on some of the unbelievable things that she has added to our district and our schools.
You know, I was thinking about this. I've been here 10 years. This is our third retiree from the high school. So people must not want to leave us. But Jan, I'm going to have you come down and stand next to me because I'm going to make you more uncomfortable than you already are. Of course. She said, you got all these words here that you wrote. I said, well, you wrote them, Mike. This is your story. So again, everybody, it is my pleasure to honor and congratulate Janet Coe on her retirement from Norwalk City Schools. You know, both my parents dedicated their livelihoods to public service. She has done the same, and I think there's no greater honor. She's a graduate of Miami University, came here in 2002, a year after this school was built, spent her entire career here. She has taught physics, physical science, biology, and integrated science here at Norwalk High School. Teaches in an area that is now very tough to find teachers, you know, tough college prep. I'm a science teacher myself, so I definitely respect what you've gone through and done. So finding words for Janet, I actually dug deep to the words from Bob Duncan on her first evaluation because I opened her file, and by now she has a big file. It's 21 years with lots of evaluations. And this is year one, and this was just perfect to me. So he wrote, Mrs. Coe is a very organized instructor who prepares well for the lessons she is to deliver. It is evident she prepares at great length to secure that students obtain the objectives outlined for that instructional period. She incorporates a variety of strategies to meet the needs of all learners. She has a structured environment that is not only aesthetically appealing, but cultivated mutual respect and a team approach from year one. And I don't think he could have put it any differently than I could in year 21. By the way, 0 missed days that year. So that was an incredible start to that. I would say that the same words echoed today. She's been assigned a consistency and stability in not so consistent times in our building. She's been an advocate for students and staff members. She's the first person to let me know when I screw up. So she has to figure out who's passing that on. And it's usually with an email 10 seconds after I did something poorly. So I have a file of those that I will look back fondly over time. And this is the truth. So, and usually she's right. That's what I have to admit. So, so I definitely will look back at those. In her retirement letter, she stated that she'll always look back on her 20 plus years fondly. And she's had the pleasure of working with many extraordinary teachers that she now considers as her close friends. She did not mention that she worked with extraordinary administrators, but I also want to point out, I feel she is a friend of mine, and she will always be welcome back to Norwalk City Schools. Her husband, Kurt, is here today, who's been alongside of her. It's extraordinary what a spouse does to help support educators. As I'm there at night, as my wife is grading papers and stuff as well, and I know what goes into that. fundings in classroom and everything you've been through. So I definitely appreciate Curtis and the support. I think you reference him always as Mr. And we just know who you reference. So ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to congratulate Janet Coe.
So, as a retiree, Mrs. Coe is getting a bell, has her name on it, Norwalk City School District, and the years that she was here. So 21 full years. She can ring it the rest of the weeks we have here at school, and she can look great in your office and or on your mantle. I can say my entire career at Norwalk City has been with Janet Coe as well. And those are students and with her understand that she has unbelievable humor and she connects with kids in a way that many don't. And sometimes you have to be careful with sarcasm. She plays it very nicely and kids won't doubt about her. So that is a positive very much from Mrs. Coe, and she won't deny it. And yes, I've been part of that receiving end of getting emails like, you should have done this, you should have said this, this was wrong. So yeah, thank you for the corrections in my time as high school principal as well. So enjoy your bell.
Making me sweat.
I very much appreciate and love you, and thanks for everything you've done for Norwalk City School District. And you get to
I'm sorry that I was remiss in saying I work with wonderful. Thank you.
Could we shake your
Oh.
hand? I mean, I'm sorry, you talked to me, they come
It
around,
don't
so.
frighten me.
Enjoy your
Thanks for putting up with my
Congratulations.
No, she put up. Educational spotlight.
Yes, it's always great when we can send our Norwalk truckers out to other states, other cities, experience more than what Norwalk is. So we've had 2 trips actually in the past month. So we're going to start with our band kids who went to Washington, D.C. We have a presentation. We'll go to our robotics advisors after that. And we've had a fun trip to Texas. So a lot of fun and interesting trips to be talked about tonight. So Mr. Kish and crew.
We haven't taken the opportunity to do this the last several trips that we've done. So this is kind of a neat opportunity to let you guys see a little bit of what we were able to see on the trip. This is a small portion of the large group that we took to Washington, D.C. just a few weeks ago. We had a great time. It worked incredibly smoothly. The students were great. The parents were great. The travel company did a wonderful job. It was a phenomenal trip, beginning to end. So we had a great time. I'm going to let them do most of the talking. I'm just kind of stalling until we get the technology caught up with everything that's going on. We have a couple other people who attended over with robotics, but they'll be talking in a minute. We're good?
You got your string light.
Oh, I do. There we go. Okay. So it kind of feels a little old, like the slideshows that people used to run off those carousels with pictures from a trip. But that's what we have for you. So our first event was our first memorial was the Flight 93 Memorial in Pennsylvania. So Matt, do that.
It was like a very unique experience. It was very sad, but it was also unique to hear the last calls and be able to hear their emotion in their voices.
Then that evening, we took a dinner cruise. And so these are some pictures that our students have shared, and they'll tell you a little bit about it.
Yeah, so we went on our dinner cruise the very first night, and we got to watch the sunset, eat dinner, and then dance, which was like really fun because we got to meet other people from different states, and they were there, so we got to meet new friends as well. So.
There's a short clip of that dancing.
But yeah, the DJ was pretty good too. So.
They had a good time. All right, then there were we ran into some food trucks, and they had a couple unique dinner opportunities that they can tell you about next.
So there was a lot of food trucks, like just outside all the museums and everything. So that's like where we had lunch most days. They were a little expensive, but if you were nice to them, they usually gave you a discount. And food was really good. So, and it was a really nice restaurant. So.
Okay. All right, and then the Smithsonian Institution, we were there the next morning. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I really liked in the American history one, we saw like all the dresses from every first lady, and that was really cool. And then we saw a bunch of like old cars and like music history, kind of. So that was a lot of fun as well.
Next, we were at the National Cathedral.
Yeah, so at the cathedral, you can see like in some of the pictures, the stained glass windows. Those were really pretty to see. And just overall, the building was huge, so it was a really unique experience. It was very quiet in there, so it was very peaceful.
Right after this, as we're pulling out of the National Cathedral and leaving, I was on the first bus. We were marking between us and the bus driver that we were ahead. We were worried because we were going to get to dinner too early. On the way out of there, you go by the U.S. Naval Observatory, which is where the vice president lives. Police stop us, and so we see the motorcade as it passes. And we even have a video clip of that as well. Silent videos of cars driving by. Yeah, I didn't use the script. Okay. So next, we went on a night walking, heavy emphasis on walking, tour of the monuments of the mall area. Oh, okay, this was Matthew. Quite a long walk. We started at the Jefferson Memorial, and we basically circled the mall to see many of these monuments that you're seeing here as And then the next morning, we had a tour of the U.S. Capitol.
Yeah, so the Capitol was very busy, very big. We got to, because we got to, got more information on the people and like the history behind it all. Everyone was super engaged into the tour, so it was really neat for everyone to listen. And overall, I liked it because I learned a ton from that hour.
After this, we went to see the White House. A funny thing happened at the White House.
Yes. So we got to go look at the White House. It was super clean, neat, And then all of a sudden, some guy from the street had a big sound box, boom box, whatever you want to call it, and he started playing the Cupid Shuffle. And so, of course, all the band kids started dancing.
It's a short clip.
Yeah. But all of us on the street started dancing, and it was just a very cool experience.
Then that evening, we went to see the National Symphony Orchestra.
We were all very tired when we went, but it was very neat to see the building. There was a line with clothes on it, and we thought that was interesting. They made signs out of those. And then the director, just the way he directed was so intriguing to us, and how he was moving so much.
He was dripping sweat.
Yes, he was.
It was disgusting.
Yeah, like a beach towel under his-
Yeah.
That's a sign. All right. Then, the final stop, right before we left for home, we visited Arlington National Cemetery, where many pictures were taken, but as a quiet, contemplative place, it's an amazing place to see before you leave Washington, because you get a small measure of the incredible toll and the cost, the freedoms that we all have. So these are some pictures of that, and we were able to, we were accepted, we applied to lay a wreath during the wreath ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknowns. And I have the video, but it's like 5 minutes long. We have it out on all of our social media. Would you guys like to see it again? I don't know if you've seen it already. Okay, then for now, we'll just put the video out again and you guys can watch it on your own time. But thank you very much for letting us show you a little bit of what we got to see on our trip.
Mr. Whaley.
You had one of
Mrs. Coe's leaving before I can embarrass her.
All right, go ahead.
No. No, as I was telling them, Mrs. Coe is like my school mother. She helped me every way I can from day one, and her leaving is gonna be a big thing on all of us around here, because she really has done a really good job, and she is one of my favorites. I had to move all across the building, but sometimes we have to. All right, so we were as an organization this year. This is the first. Was our 6th trip to the World Championships as a high school organization. In our 2nd year with our IQ, this is the first time that they were able to make it. Every time we go, it is a goal. It is just an accomplishment to be there. There are 800 teams at this competition from 40 different countries, and I believe of the 40 some odd states from around the United States. So it's a really big, humongous, and the kids can tell you when they walked in, it was just absolutely mind-boggling to what they were able to accomplish and get there. This year, I'm gonna just go over some of their highlights. Is that every year we go, the best we had done before is going 5 and 5, so we get 10 matches. We had never made it to the elimination tournaments. This year they went 6-3-1, and I want to show you their picture real quick to show you how we got to 6-3-1, because we could have easily been 4-6 as well. So if you watch our video online, this was an add-on we had. We were the only robot that you could tell which was ours, because it had orange panels on the top to kind of help out. So we ended up, making it worldwide and putting the name on the memorable name. They do the steps at every place we've gone to. Where did that go? It didn't make it in.
You're okay.
Okay. Anyways, so in our last match, of the tournament, we were going up against some heavy stuff. Some things went wrong mechanically, and our driver made a very small decision. One of the things that they found with this is when you make small decisions, you either have big success or big failure at this level. So he made a small decision, and one of the things that our robots did is they shot string out everywhere across the entire field. If that string left the field, you were disqualified. You got a 0. You got the loss. He shot, the piece was a ½ an inch from disqualification. It landed on a loading platform that dangled over properly, and just absolutely was one of those things where if he did not shoot that, we wouldn't have tied in that last one. And I think that really goes. So our students here are going to talk a little bit about their roles and what they did while they were down there to get to this point. Go ahead, Tyler.
Well, I am the programmer, so I write all the code. I run the thing. There's a 15-second autonomous at the beginning, and there's an individual programming skills where it's just your one robot. I guess I'm just going to talk about the autom is the plan. The autonomous is 15 seconds of a total 1 minute 45-second match, so it's a 1/7 of the match. But if you reach a condition to get a win point, you get a win point. And winning a match gives you 2 more. So you can get up to 3 win points in a match, which means that 1/7 time period can give you 1/3 of your win points if you win the match. So it's a really short time, and it's very stressful, and it's very stringent. You can't mess up at all. It's one of those things where I'll have like 100 lines of code, and if one of them is even 50 milliseconds off, it messes everything up and we get nothing. And there's so much success that I saw with it, and it made me really happy to see how well it went, because it made a very large difference between where we placed and where we could have placed if we never got the bonus points for doing this thing. So that's about good.
And that was very good. And that was the big difference as to how they got there. Without and everybody on the team will say, without Tyler's programming, they would have not made it into the top 10 of the state on the skill side. And then the adjustments that he made in the month that we had to get to the World Championships would not have put us even close to being where we were, because those small win points that he was able to get for us throughout that process really solidified not only where they were, but what Thomas was able to do and what Thomas is going to talk about.
All right, so I'm Thomas, and during the initial part of the season and kind of in between tournaments, I do the building, but during the tournament, my job is what we call scouting. And scouting is basically you go around and you're talking to all these other teams, because during the elimination part of the tournament, you have to choose your alliance partner. So it's not just a random matchup. You actually have to choose who you are, and then if you get eliminated, you're just done. So it's a really important part of the process. Obviously, highest placed teams, they get to pick first. So you won't be talking to those higher placed teams, making friends and all that good stuff. But as Mr. Whaley said, if you're not placing high yourself, it's a lot harder to get in touch with them and stuff like that. So my job is to talk to them, try to get alliances and stuff like that, but also talk about strategies before our matches and things like that. So there's a lot of planning that goes into our matches even before we get up to the field. We're going around to the tables looking at our teammates' robots, our opponents' robots, and trying to figure out a good game plan and strategy. Usually what we ended up doing was during the first 30 seconds to a minute, both of our robots, us and our partners, would go for scoring as many points as possible, trying to fill the basket, which is our main scoring objective. And then we would play defense for the rest of the match. Make sure that our opponents can score and go for some expansion bonus at the end. But scouting helps us out a lot, so it got us into a good seed in the tournament because of our autons worked really well with another team's initial programming, and so we were able to have a really good start to all of our matches.
So even before we went into alliance selection, Thomas had already talked to so many teams, and the team that ended up being, we were picked by them, team from Tennessee, he was already, I honestly don't think it would have mattered what we would have done in the last match. It was just icing on the cake for them as far as doing their role. Thomas had done all the legwork. I think he probably had about 30,000 steps on each day, because he was constantly up and around talking and making sure that those things were in place. And that's a big, important role that we have. And then we brought along some, so our next two that are going to talk briefly, we were able to bring along a couple of students from other teams to kind of not only get the experience, but to really work as our pit crew. Because while the team of three kind of knew the robot and everything else, the ones that we took along for the experience really played a key role in making sure that everything was where they needed to be, met the times and stuff like that. So they're going to talk about their impressions as to what they went through.
I'm Hudson, and we technically didn't make it to Worlds, but we got invited by Thomas, Tyler, and Grayson. Being there was just really great. We got to hang out with a lot of people that we know and didn't know. I know Tyler and a few others got to talk to a Chinese team using Google Translate, which I wasn't there for it, but that sounds so much fun. Mr. Whaley challenged us to trade with another team, random items. I didn't trade, but I helped trade the Ohio flag for a Belgium flag. And what did you trade with?
I traded my jersey, and I got a Canada jersey from a team. They were pretty close to us, but got a jersey from them. I talked to a lot of countries, tried to get some other jerseys. Some of them wouldn't trade, but it was fun.
So the idea was for all of them that wanted to do it is to get that experience of talking to others and pushing them out of their comfort zone, because I really stressed, go to the international teams, talk to them. They had delicacies. Everybody was giving out stuff. We have about 1 million stickers and bracelets and all of that stuff. So that really pushed a lot of them who really, if you watch them in day to day, they're not they're the ones that want to stick to themselves right on their computers and stuff like that. It really pushes them out. And that was a big part of the experience about going. And I know that the middle school is going to hit a little bit more on that as well. We had a great experience. At least one more year down in Dallas for the championships, and then they're talking about moving it to another spot. But if you have any questions for us, we were very pleased and honored that we were able to go and really represent not only us, but also Ohio in such a high replica. Half of the 27 teams that went down to Dallas from Ohio made it into the tournament. So our competition in this area is humongous, and just making it there for our area is really, really hard. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer. If not, I'm going to hand it over to our middle school team and talk about their experience. So, thank you. While they're coming down, I do want to point something out about the Ohio connection that is also here. Our head referee in our division was a guy named John Queen. I think he was in your division too.
Yes, he was.
John Queen is Jennifer King's son-in-law. So we know him. He was part of here. He always comments about all of our program as far as the Norwalk program is. And he's one of the big referees in the nation. So just a little connection here.
Okay, well, I did not prepare a slideshow because I was told that others weren't either. So come on down.
She sent it to me today.
Oh, okay. So we played a little bit of different game of robotics. They are very competitive, offense, defense, and we play more of a cooperative game of robotics. So we are teamed up with a random team for each of our matches, and we work with them to score the same amount of points. Does anybody want to talk about the game?
I'll talk about the game.
Go ahead, Leland.
So first, going off of what Mr. Whaley said about the competition in this area being intense, we almost didn't make it. We made it there completely out of others succeeding more. So they talked about the skills competition, kind of going off just what you're doing on your own. We placed high enough in the skills competition that once other people had qualified for Worlds through different awards and doing well, it came down to that we ended up being at the top of that list, and they take a certain number of people out of that. So we were high enough in there that we got an invitation to go to Worlds. So we got there because other people did well. So we can thank some of our other Ohio teams for that. So our game is 1 minute long, so it's a little shorter, and we don't have an autonomous period in the beginning. So it's more cooperative. You're working with the team. So strategy is more important. How you get the maximum amount of points you can, cooperating with the other team. So our strategy, we'd split the field in half. We'd both try and score as many points as we could on our side of the field, and then it all gets added up in the end, and we both get the same score. So that ended up helping us a lot. We got some good matchups, very good matchups with people that are much better than us, but we each work together and get the most amount of points we can.
Don't let them talk down on themselves. They had like their best games of the whole season where they're like, beginning of the season, we had some games that we were scoring like single digits, and here our average is like 121. So like they made huge games as a team. So kudos to you guys, you did great. We also got to have some cultural experiences there. We visited Dallas when we first got there. That's where we competed at. So we were able to see the JFK Memorial in downtown Dallas. We also made a trip to Fort Worth, and they got to see old Fort Worth, and we got to see the Longhorns. Anybody want to talk about any of the cultural experiences that you had?
So while we were there, we did get to meet some teams that we already knew, and many teams from here, but we also got to meet a Paraguay team, a Spain team, and a team that was deaf, so they had to use sign language to communicate with us. And as we don't talk that language, they had a translator, but it was still easy to talk to them and easy for us to understand them. And some matches may not have gone well through communication, but we figured out those problems by communicating, saying that we need to do more, that way we don't get this. But it went really well, and we had a very good experience and got to meet many new people.
Absolutely, very good.
So similar to how the high school team mentioned, I actually went around on the second day of our competition asking teams if they would want to trade the shirt that I had. And so I managed to trade away the camo jersey that I had with a shirt for a shirt from New Zealand. So I'm not wearing it right now, but I do have a shirt now that says New Zealand on the back and has the flag on the side, which is really cool.
So we want to thank the community for everybody's support. Like, that was awesome. We had lots of donations that allowed us to go to this trip for your support and your donations. So thank you for your time tonight.
So congratulations to all our students. I also want to thank all of our educators in the room. This week is Teacher Staff Appreciation. Obviously, these unbelievable experiences our students are experiencing, they are being led by you. You're making sure these trips are in place. You're making sure funding sources are there available. I've always said Norwalk is blessed because if there's an opportunity for our kids, we're going to make sure kids get that opportunity. We're going to make sure if it's a financial piece or whatever else, we're going to commit to that. So thank you, teachers, for making that happen.
Thank you.
Permanent improvement projects.
All right, so for this summer, permanent improvement projects, we had Garland Roofing come in and kind of do inspection on our roofs and the state of where they're at. We did one 3 years ago, some of our Maplehurst, I want to say League, Main Street. This time we did the high school, middle school, and Pleasant. What they found at the middle school, the roof over the gymnasium is in really terrible shape. It's been tried to be repaired several times. It's just getting to the point where it needs to be replaced. So that went out to bid. Obviously, some of the costs associated with that. For here, the high school roof, the high school as you guys know, it gets beat up by the wind. Every storm we get, that's why we had the issue this winter with the frozen pipes. So the upper roof, I think it's actually right here behind the auditorium up here. That's in bad shape, slits, cracks, tried to be repaired before. Pieces are starting to blow off, so that's just time for that to get a full redo as well. Moving past that, the middle school band room, Mr. Kish will be excited about this. It's got carpet on the walls. We're going to redo that, take the carpet off the walls, repaint the walls, put some sound panels up there. It's going to look nice in there. In the Main Street playground, we're going to get that resealed. So that's chipping and stuff like that. Smaller items, painting at each school, kind of freshen up. We did a lot of painting at League last year. I know when people came back to League, staff, everyone, they were really excited about how that looks. So we're going to try to freshen up around the district with that. Strengthening the restroom stalls here in our main restrooms, since boys are having a little too much fun in there. So we're going to strengthen those. And then we're going to patch the bus curb at Pleasant. So it's kind of getting pieces of concrete are breaking off. So we're going to get that repaired and kind of go from there.
Has anything ever been talked about with the going into the middle school parking lot, the buses? How steep it is. I've watched them hit coming out of there before. Has that ever been looked at? I'm worried about that cracking the frames on the buses.
Correct. We haven't looked at that. That's something we can look into.
I know one time a bus pulled out of there because it was torqued so much it opened up the side doors for the luggage compartment or whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It's just because it's working the bus again.
I got a phone call saying our bus was driving.
Yep.
Yeah. So, we can look at that. I know one thing it does do is it helps people from speeding in and out of there.
Right.
But that's something we could definitely look at. Middle school parking lot's probably be something that's on the PI for next year. So that can be something that will
I mean,
address
it'd
that.
be easy to put speed bumps in there. I'm just,
Yep.
cracking those, how much of the buses?
Too much.
Yeah, cracking those frames, we don't want to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Special presentation.
So our special guest is Garmin Miller. We have met with them, looking, obviously, we've talked with our school district, and you have all heard about what our future entails. So we'd like to have an elementary build across from Norwalk High School, looking to add on potentially to the middle school. We're having a lot of things in discussion. We're in that early phase, but this is a group that has done this for many years. They're professionals, and we're needing that guidance. So we've reached out to Garmin Miller, and we've been very impressed in our initial meeting, and they've worked with us in the past. So we're at that point here as a community, looking at some of the needs and what we want, what's best for our kids going forward. So thank you.
Thank you. So yes, my name is Eric Moltz. I'm the CEO at Garmin Miller. I've been with Garmin Miller for the past 22 years. My background is in engineering, and much of my time in the recent years has been helping school districts with planning and figuring out how to best plan for their future.
And my name is Monica Barra, and I've been with Garmin Miller for close to 4 years. Prior to that, I was a regional program consultant where I worked with the OFCC, the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. So I've been to your district years ago, and I showed Eric, I have some meeting minutes from 2016 and 17, and helping, when you guys are doing some planning at that point. So in this role, I would be working to help with that master plan process, that OFCC liaison, and then any kind of community engagement pieces, and hopefully we get some students who are as well spoken as their high school students. What a great opportunity that was. So I was very impressed.
And Brian Wolf is also on our team. He'll be the principal in charge assigned to your district. And Brian is going to be here tonight. His son is a senior on the Minster baseball team. He found out his son was going to have an opportunity to pitch for probably his last game tonight. So I told him he should be there for that. So we know that the focus lately looked at what to do with your elementary buildings, and part of that evaluation is you work with your community and talk about what the future will be. You're going to want to look at existing buildings and just have some idea of what improvements would need to be made to bring them up to today's standards versus what would a new building look like. Just doing your due diligence to have all that information, and that's part of what this planning process does for you. And of course, in the state of Ohio, there's opportunities with OFCC, a variety of programs, and that's something that we'll get into as well about what OFCC programs would apply to you.
Sure. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what OFCC is, and then a little about where you are in the process. So the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission is based out of Columbus. They handle all of the vertical construction in the state, public construction, and they have a program that's specific to K-12 school districts, and that's the Classroom Facilities Assistance Program, or CFAP. That's where a district looks at the entire master plan for your district, and you get money from the state. You raise money typically from property tax or something, so it's funded by the state and local. then he puts forward towards a construction project. So I know that your district, back in, I think it was 2016, said, okay, we're ready, let's start this planning process. And then in about 2018, OFCC's like, stop, we've got so many districts in line and want to take some of this money, we don't have enough money to give to everybody. So they put a hold on that. So there is, your district, fortunately, because you raised your hand, you're in this priority ranking of funding, and I think, Joyce, you said you talked to one of the planners last week, about the 5th on that list for priority funding. They need to get through some other districts first, so I mean, that is a positive that you're within that circle, but you know, when that timing will be is an interesting piece. Another program is the Expedited Local Partnership Program, or ELP, and that's very similar. We do a district-wide master plan, but that plan is then funded 100% by the district until you're eligible for that funded program. And so usually you do a smaller piece of the project, you know, one building or an addition or some other piece to kind of get you know, to help fill the need that you have, but you don't want to typically raise all the funds on your own, because it's usually quite expensive. So this program is really when OFCC will allow you to be in if you're beyond that 2-year window from that funded program. So for your district, we know that your equity rank is about 122. That is a position that is out of 609 school districts. Every September kind of juggles a little bit. Your position keeps going like up on the list, so that local share that you would need to raise towards a project is 21%. I think a couple of 6 or 7 years ago it was about 30%. So on one hand, that is, you know, a benefit to you. You know, you want the state to contribute more. A couple of years ago, I think you applied for ELP and never really did anything with that. They do have a 1-year timeline or a window for you to do something about it. So since that has passed, it might make some sense to reapply to get OFCC to get involved again. They looked at a couple different master plan options, and again, they would do that again. Because OFCC, when they look at a master plan, they would look at enrollment, where your 10-year projection would be. They would look at your buildings, your building assessments, and what kind of conditions you have in your buildings, and then that forms the master plan. That's how OFCC does it. It's pretty much by the numbers: 25 students in the classroom, 900 square feet per classroom. But we know that there are other needs within the community, other needs in the district, other priorities that you have, and so it's important to really try to bring those to the table as well, to really come up with the best solution. So that goes back to a couple of different options. One is to reapply for ELP, so that gets your master plan updated. I know just the construction costs went up in April by a little bit, about 4%. Last year was 17%. So that's also a good sign that it's slowing down a little bit. But then it'll also force OFCC to say, are you within that 2-year window where you might be potentially eligible for CFAP, or are you beyond that, and your only option then is to do something in ELP on your own, or maybe do nothing and then continue to do Band-Aids and re-roof and things like that. And so that's something that we can help evaluate. So as I mentioned, I was a regional program consultant. I had about 200 school districts that I was in various stages of planning, a lot of ELP experience. Garmin-Miller worked on a lot of ELP districts as well. So we're familiar with working on buildings that meet the design, that fits the design standards of the state, trying to maximize how much credit you get back towards the project. So we've got a lot of experience.
Yeah, it's important to understand the ELP process with the OFCC and the requirements of what you need to do, and so that's something we can guide you through. I just want to give you a short glimpse into our approach to master planning. We call it For You, By You, because we're going to tailor the planning process to what's going to work best for you and your community. But in general, we believe it should be an open, community-driven process. Built on transparency and accuracy is very important. and going into it with no predetermined outcomes. You know, the information, and as you gather things, it's going to tell the story for you. And in the end, you know, find the right plan for Norwalk City Schools. So one of the first steps is establishing teams. Obviously, Board of Education, your ultimate decision makers. You know, but then we encourage you to form a task force, and we'll get into a little bit about what that task force looks like. But then, you know, obviously the community, we want to get information to them and be getting some feedback from the community. So it's this communication flow of board to the task force going out into the community, and then getting that feedback and bringing that feedback back up to you. Also, you understand what you're hearing in the community, their priorities, and where your community wants to go with facilities. So that task force, we encourage you, you know, usually we see 20 to 40 people. The district of your size, you know, you can be closer to that 40 number. You want, usually there's a board member or two. A lot of times it's the 2 board members assigned to buildings and grounds. You want some administration and staff, some sampling from them, and a variety of community members. You want to try to bring in as many different groups and voices as possible, and this is, you know, to be a sampling of what your community overall is. That task force is going to help guide the process. We're going to meet with them, get feedback from them, get an understanding of what their thoughts are, and get their opinions, but then they're ambassadors going out into your community as well. You know, they're going out and keeping their friends and family updated and answering questions out in the community, so that really helps in the whole effort.
The 2 ladies that are on this picture were on a task force at a district, but they were speaking at a community meeting. So, you know, having it come from us is great because we're really smart, but having it come from, you know, community members who are leading it, you know, we're all, it's for you, by you. This is important to have you also, or them, you know, involved with.
The steps of the planning process, you can look at it as a 3-step process, a 3D process, we call it. Define, discover, and develop. Define, that first phase of the process, when we meet with the task force, when we meet with the community, it's really big picture. We want to hear about hopes, dreams, fears that you have for your district and what the future would hold, what priorities, what's on your mind. And we, like I said, we want to get that from the task force. We want to have a community meeting where we're hearing from the community on those things. Then the second piece is discover. This is when we're starting to get down into the data, let's say. Our team, we did an assessment for you all a couple of years ago, but we would bring a team back through just to see what's changed in the last couple of years. Working with OFCC on that enrollment and assessments. We want to talk to your teachers and your administration on how are your facilities working for them in the way that they're delivering education. You know, what could be improved, what's working well. Just getting that feedback from your teachers will help us understand a lot about where maybe existing facilities are lacking. If you do go with a new facility, what should be in that new facility to accommodate how they're delivering education. And of course, a big piece, we can work with you through financing and the timing, you know, how would you fund it, along with the OFCC options that you have. So we guide you through all the pieces to put that together. So this is the information gathering. So the last piece is develop. So you're taking the priorities we've heard from you, what's important to you all as a district, the information that we're sharing with you, and from there we start developing options. So we'll develop multiple options, put budgets to them, and review them with the task force, with the community, get that feedback from what option is everybody leaning towards, until you finally narrow it down to the final option that's going to be best for you all. And this is a process, you know, every district's different. Sometimes you quickly get to a couple options and it doesn't take long to narrow down to the final one. Other times there's a number of options and you got to go through some iterations of getting feedback and refining options till you finally get to the best one.
And then also along that way are some community meetings. So it's important to hear the voice of the community, make sure that they're up to date on the information and share it along the way. So sharing that and information, presenting the options, making sure that everyone's going to be supporting it. Just be supportive of the process. And so those this is a community meeting that had over 600 people on one side of the bleachers. It was incredible. I've never been at a community meeting. They're going on the ballot in November, so that's good for them. But anyway, it's important to have a community meetings. But we know that not everyone can get there. Other people have kids playing baseball. I get that, So there are some other opportunities to have outreach. So whether it's in mailers, social media, district website, helping support that, because it is important to get the information out so everybody is on the same page.
And we have a full communications marketing team in-house that can help you with all this. They can develop the graphics, help you set up a social media plan, we can help you set up a website, get content to put on there. Just wanted to touch a little bit on Garvin-Miller. If you're not as familiar, we're in our 30th, this is our 30th anniversary this year. Founded in Minster, Ohio. We also have an office in Columbus, Ohio. Our main focus over the last 30 years has been K-12 in Ohio, which is timed up right with the formation of what used to be OSFC, and the whole school program was something we got into right from the beginning. So we have a long relationship with OSCC. We know the program, and we know the people to reach out to whenever you need to get questions answered at Columbus. We're a multi-service firm, so we have architects, interior designers, all the different engineering disciplines from mechanical, electrical, technology. We have site designers on staff, and we've built all these services intentionally because we want you to view us as a one-stop shop when it comes to K-12 planning and design. Anytime you need a resource, as you're going through like these permanent improvement projects, if you have questions or need some professional guidance, we want you to feel like you can call us at any time just to ask a question, and we're there to help guide you. So a lot of districts, this is just a sampling of some we've helped through master planning process in Ohio, so we have a lot of experience. And I last want to just touch on our culture so you understand what really drives us. We really focus on delivering exceptional service. We want to listen first and really understand your needs and your priorities, and then use our experience and our expertise to help partner with you to find the best solutions. And we take a lot of pride in the quality of everything we do, the quality of our documents whenever it gets to a construction project. And what that means for you is contractors are giving you more accurate pricing, there's fewer change orders along the way, things are better coordinated and smoother. I mean, that's one of the main reasons you're hiring a professional firm. You want us to take the heavy load, make your life easier when it goes through those processes. That's what we're here for. So with that, we'd be happy to answer questions if you have any.
So if we reapply for the L, that helps us get a more defined answer on where we're at with the CFAP, right? Or where we're at.
It'll force OFCC to really look at where you are on that list and say, are they within 2 years of being funded from the state?
So why didn't that happen when we applied the first time? Is it because we didn't do a project in that time frame, or?
Well, you applied, and I believe that you were accepted into the ELP program, and you typically have to write on there when you're going to have your money available, and something probably was written, and you just never got your money to do a project, and so that kind of lapsed and went away. But they look at it every year. So one of my districts is in the 400s. They, within the week, they got a response. Yeah, go ahead, be an ELP. You're going to be, it's a while for you. Another district close to you on the list, also in this priority ranking, it took them 2 months to respond. So, OFCC is changing personnel. There is some of that. I think there is The financial person probably has changed since you applied last time, so really looking at where your position is, what the state contribution is, what they're projecting, who was successful in May, what they're projecting in November. There's a lot of things that go into that list.
But the fact that you were accepted the last time you applied says that you were outside.
Outside that 2-year window, right?
Oh, I see, okay, so if we do start projects that way, and we are still eligible, but we just don't have the time frame, then do we get paid back in that 21%?
It comes back in when you do a CFAP project. So it's really just a credit and a number out there until you do the rest of the project. And you could apply for help, and you can do a project that's $1 million, and that locks you in at that 21%. If you think that that's going to fluctuate, to do some of these upgrades, to do something that's not going to be taken down at the time of CFAP. So you can secure some credit that way. Or you can do a larger project and not the whole thing, or you can do the whole thing, but it's a lot of money. It can be hard to explain that.
So you were here when we talked about these improvements. Should we be running these through you before we do any of these improvements to make sure they're not qualifying for help? And then so
it depends on the timing though too, because you're going to need, OFCC is going to take some time to review your application. You're going to have to do an enrollment, study. They'll have to run a master plan. You have to go into a project agreement. So, you have to look at really when you need things done.
Yeah, I think the road projects are pretty safe. It sounds like something needs to be done, and I don't know that it really is going to be a big impact. Yeah.
I don't think the dollar amount is enough to get us the credit either. I mean, we're only talking, I know it sounds like what we're talking about, but we're only talking about, right.
So is the third-party study that was done, is that gonna have to be repeated again? Birth rates, et cetera, looking at all,
Yes.
that's gonna have
For
to
the
be.
enrollment piece, yes. In
Correct.
fact, they would do that every year, even if they want to have it fresh information. Particularly, I think, with after COVID, I think numbers have changed. I've seen a lot of districts are kind of trending back up a little bit. So that is really, I don't want to say easy to do, but your EMS coordinator would look at, how many students you have, and all the history should be loaded already, so. The building assessments, I'm not sure if OFCC will have somebody come out, your elementary schools, if they're over that 2/3 guideline, if they're already recommended to be demolished, they're not gonna pay somebody to come back out and walk through those buildings, because, unless you want to keep them. So, yeah, I don't think that they would do that. I think they would just kind of hit their little button, like, yeah, that one's gonna go away, so we don't need to talk about what else needs to be added into this assessment. So that can save some time there.
Our step-by-step process then would be reapplying for the OAK. And then you talked about up there having the task force, the community outreach. When does that start? Does that start when we have a time frame, or do we start that process now so we can get that feedback? Or
Yeah, I recommend you start now. Yeah. The summer's going to be a great time for us to get into buildings. When the students aren't in there, we won't disrupt anything. And, usually you try to avoid summer for meetings for a variety of reasons, obviously. And then, start in early fall, maybe have that first task force committee meeting somewhere in the fall time frame.
And so then I actually wrote surveys right before you put that down. So you help us create surveys,
Yes.
help us get those out, get the feedback in.
Some setup structure, good timing with us in the summer, and then when people return and action is all about schools.
Yep.
We have, captive audience and ready to talk. Kudos to you. I've talked to superintendents, administrators that have had completed projects and very positive. They said all times of night, calls are made and they do pick up the cell phone, office phone, like those calls happen. So that's not a talking point, that is for real. So from real people that I trust that have seen it all the way through. So.
I think it's easy to get lost in this. We've had how many presentations, and sometimes by the end, I don't understand, but your presentation, I actually feel like I understand what's happening.
Good.
So we appreciate that.
Thank
It was great.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you very much. We have pizza here if you want, headed back to Minster and Cleveland. You want?
Also, for participation, each person who wishes to address the board will be asked to give his or her name and address. Remarks should be limited to 3 minutes in length. If after everyone who wishes to do so has had an opportunity to speak, additional comments can be made up to a total allotted time of 30 minutes.
Hey, I wanted, I'm Sancha Roderick, Norwalk, Ohio, as most of you know. And I want to say I'm very disappointed to hear that you backed down to not praying at your meetings to ask God for wisdom as a board, leading this school system, leading our children, our future leaders. Thanks, Jeremy. Did you hear that? Again, I'm Sancha Roderick, and I live here in Norwalk, Ohio. And I'm very, very disappointed that you're going to back down because of a minor little threat and not ask God to be with you as leaders of this school system. As she moves the flag here, we even said the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. You have that liberty to pray. We're not trying to show off anything. We truly need God's intervention. We need God to lead us in making decisions for this community, for these students. As you all know, there's a lot of confusion in this community, a lot of confusion in these children. I really have a heart for kids. I really care about them. I pray for you guys as you lead. I sub at the schools because I care. I've taken some backlash because of standing for righteousness, trying to do the right thing. And I have to tell you my experience today. I subbed at a school that's becoming one of my favorite schools, League Elementary, fourth graders. They're becoming little people that can do a little more on their own. And I follow the teachers' assignments. And the book I read to them was about the Nazis overtaking the Jews. That is what is starting to happen in our nation. That is what is starting to happen here in our school to our school board members. Because the Nazis just took a little bit more and a little bit more. And they didn't stand up. The Jews needed to stand up and say no more. You have the freedom to pray. I know you're a little concerned about a lawsuit. I'd be more concerned about God, our Creator, standing for our schools, praying for our students, praying for wisdom as you make decisions. You know, one of our presidents came up with the National Day of Prayer, our president. I was so tickled to be able to sub on that day, because a lot of times the principals will ask or tell a little fact about what today is. I didn't hear it that day, but I was happy to tell the students. Do you know what today is? It's a national day. What is it? One of the kids said, Pancake Day? It was kind of exciting hearing their thoughts. It was the National Day of Prayer.
where you had the freedom, no one was forcing you. You don't even have to participate. Just be respectful and allow those to pray who want to pray. It's for your good. It's for my good. So with that, I'm going to bow my head. You do what you want. I'm going to pray a moment for us. Okay? So Father God, I come in the mighty name of Jesus Christ, who is my Savior. And I'm asking you, Lord, you tell us to train up a child in the way they should go. God, I pray for wisdom for this board. I pray for discernment for all the leaders in the schools, the teachers especially, who have the hearts of our children in their hands. God, give them discernment. Give them wisdom, Lord God. And bring down heaven on earth in Norwalk, Ohio. I pray your will be done. Your kingdom come in the Norwalk City schools and these students, just as it is in heaven. God, give this group of leaders boldness to stand for truth, to stand up for our rights. And Lord, put people in positions who are going to obey you and further the kingdom of God. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Christine Ruth, and I live on Hanover Way. I can't follow up her speech, she's really good at that. But I would like to say that I'm in agreement with that I believe prayer is a very important part of any organization, especially the school system, because you have such responsibility for our children. And so I too pray, but if you're not comfortable, I would be honored to pray at your meeting. And I just want to ask that you would individually pray on your own, because God hears the prayers of our hearts. And ask him what he wants you to do, and then do it.
Anyone else?
I wasn't gonna say anything, but you know what, Sandra? So you feel that because somebody else out here complained that we were praying, that now you think the leaders here, because we are worried about possible lawsuit, that we aren't here for the children? That's pretty upsetting when you call yourself a Christian. So I'm going to tell you that I don't have to prove my religion to you or anyone else here. When I sit down in this chair for the past year and a half, the only thought I have is to do what's best for the children in the community and the district, and I don't have to prove that by starting with prayer. I also don't have to pray in front of people for my beliefs or my morals to be heard. So I don't know what was going on before we started praying like 3 meetings ago. So was no one up here following good morals or ethics before we started? But you're going to come here and question them because a board member told you that we decided to pray on our own and not in front of a board, in front of the meeting? I find that disappointing. I also find disappointing messages from someone who is in the district who wants to attack someone because of the way they dress. So before we start pointing fingers on who's Christian and who's not, let's remember why we are elected up here. It's not because of our religious beliefs, it's because we're going to do what's best for the community and the children. There are a lot of programs that this district does that has nothing to do with religion to help strengthen and shape our children. I can name 3 or 4 different ones. But I love when someone comes to here and they put their little digs in or wants to represent them as a Christian, but then throws digs like, well, you know, if we don't do this or we back down, you're disappointed because that means we're not here for the kids. You know, I guess the look of a Christian is different for you than it is for me, because I look at that very differently. And I don't think that by me, I let you speak. I think that by you saying that we are somehow not here for the children. I've never, this is the Board of Education. I work for a neurology practice. I don't pray before every meeting I go into, but I put my heart, soul, and morals into everything I do. That doesn't mean that we're not doing that. And I'm disappointed that you don't see that we took a step back and said, hey, listen, we want to make the focus of our board meetings to be about the education in this district and not about what now you come to bring to the table if we stopped praying or we started. We had how many presentations just now that were amazing that you didn't mention? I'm disappointed in that. So that's all I have. And if anyone doesn't like where I stand, please let me know because I'm here to support the community. And if you don't like it, I'm happy to let someone else do it because I'm getting really tired of the fact that we can't do anything right. We're in trouble for praying. We're in trouble for looking into issues. Honestly, it's sad what this community is focused on. And we talked, and you compared it to the Jews. I just. All right, sorry, I'm done.
I'm sorry, I didn't attack you, and I wasn't saying anything was unethical or anything about your faith or your Christianity. I did notice the kids did a great thing, and I was applauding them. That wasn't my concern. My concern was that you weren't going to pray. I just ask, I pray about a lot of things. I pray for you guys, and I'm sorry if that offends you.
No, it offends me the way you said that because we stopped and you're disappointed and we should be leading these meetings by a religious standard. Well, we're leading these meetings by an ethical and a moral and a
I
higher
didn't say anything
standard.
about unethical or immoral. I just said I was disappointed. We backed out because of a threat and not open with prayer. That's all. I had a couple of board members contact. Okay, so don't take it out on anyone. I just shared my thought. I cared. Okay, I didn't attack anyone.
Okay, treasurer's report.
Okay, so we have some different things tonight. We're going to start just getting an agenda. I mixed it up a little bit, so things are out of order from what we normally see. But we're going to start with approving the minutes from our last meeting, which was April 18th, 2023. We also have our April 2023 financial reports, and the big part on the April financials was the school district income tax. We received our final payment for the year. It comes quarterly. This quarter was $65,000 over last quarter, same time frame. And for the year, we're $354,000 over last year. So that's really exciting on the school district income tax. It means that our community is working. So that's always important. I would ask again this year that we waive all of the K-12 school fees and the activity participation fees for athletics and student activities. And we do have a donation from the Norwalk Athletic Boosters that is going to offset that. And she's here.
Shelley's here, yes.
Shelley's here.
Just like
Okay.
you just came from a track meet.
All right. So, did you want to come up and say a few words? now
Sure.
about-
And actually, you had that big check in hand that you
Wait,
had.
Josh.
Well, I just decided yesterday, so, okay, he let me know, and I was like, oh, I don't have time for a giant check, so maybe we'll have a giant check next time. I just wanted to share with everyone, so last year, we contributed $30,000 towards the athletic fees to cover or defray the costs for families and members of the school district. We calculated through final forms that 509 high school athletes and their families didn't have to pay the $150 to be able to participate. And we did see a slight increase in the number of athletes that were able to participate this year. And in addition to that, we went ahead and included the middle school in that count, and just over 200 middle school athletes were able to participate as well. So this year, we know that costs are rising. So we have made the decision to add additional $10,000 to that sum, so we're going to contribute $40,000. And hopefully with all the legislation that's coming down the pipe, we don't have that discussion yet. Right. By next year. So $40,000, and we're looking at some other big improvements again to help the district in some of the buildings and some of the other athletic facilities. So it's going to be an
Thank
exciting
you
year.
to what you do in the boosters. And another thing, we talked about all the students focus. We also have the flags that are out front. So on the light post,
Yeah.
we host a lot of tournaments. That gives a nice little flavor of Norwalk, the district, and what you're seeing coming in. So that was actually a push by the booster organization. So thank you for those pieces as well.
You're very, very welcome. We ended up with about 16 of those feather banner flags that are spread around. I heard 6, but that's fine. We're excited to spread the trucker joy everywhere. This year we were able to, it was a little over $200,000 towards the tennis facility. We're still planning on spending more to add restrooms and, finish up, button it up, I guess. Once that's underway, we are interested in helping with the new gym floor and updating that. So we want everyone that walks into our facilities and everyone who participates in Norwalk Trucker Athletics to be proud to be a Norwalk Trucker. So, yeah, we're excited.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the legislation that she was referencing is the new sports gambling, the betting book that you hear about. That was supposed to be set aside to go to schools for K-12 athletics. Unfortunately, it goes to the state of Ohio first, and then the state of Ohio is to disperse it to the schools. So it's liable to end up like the lottery money, which goes to the state and then just comes back to us as regular foundation funding. So, but we're hopeful that we can see that come as additional funding. So just a highlighter. So next on the list, we have a cooperative purchasing agreement with the Equalis Group. And both board policy and revised code allows us to do cooperative purchasing so that we're able to take advantage of bidding that way instead of doing the actual bidding yourself. And that's what we're going to use for our roofing bids. Corey had already set this up and gone through it, and we just needed the approval for the agreement. There's no charge for this. We're in the state of Ohio purchasing. We also, when we did the bleachers at the stadium, we used the TIPS purchasing agreement for that. So that's what this is for. Then we have the roofing bid approval. It did actually go out for bid. We had 3 companies that bid on it, and the lowest, most responsible bid was from the Werner Roofing Company, which Corey's not here, but I feel like he said they were out of Mansfield. We did have 2 other companies bid, but that was the lowest bid. So then I'd ask that you approve the bid. And that's the middle school bid and the high school bid also. Next on that, we have the 004 appropriation. So the high school, there is some remaining funds from when the high school was built. And the dollar amount right now, it's right around $300,000. We would like to start using that. It was basically set aside at that time to pay for roofs, the parking lot, big ticket projects like that. So we would like to use that to pay for this roof up here. So I need to increase the 004 appropriation by $150,000, which will cover the roof and the restroom project. Then we have disposals. There's some outdated textbooks and materials, math books at Main Street School, the old reading series that we're going to send home mostly with parents and students. And then we're going to join again in the county auction Saturday, June 17th. So we have some items there. So if you see something there, you can go out and bid on that at the county auction. It's always a good time out there. And then we have the 5-year forecast, which we're going to do a little bit more interactive this time since we have our new cover touch up here and everybody's doing presentations. So I thought we would do that. So what I need you to do, yes, is I'm going to give Ralph my laptop so he can play. So touch here, me too. So this is called Fun with the Forecast. So I thought we'd try a game-based educational platform for our May forecast update. I believe this is what our teachers call a formative assessment. right? Sure. So I've been teaching you about the forecast every May and November per year. So now I'm going to assess your knowledge about the forecast. And then I'm going to change my instruction going forward to your needs. The formative assessment. So what I need you to do is get on a website called Kahoots. And everyone can join in on their smartphone, whatever you have. People in TV land can join in. And this is your website. Oh, or you can scan the QR code with your phone. So we need to all get logged in so we can all play. The more the merrier, right? No, you just hit play. So when you get on there, there's a button that just says play. Oh yeah, Lisa's got it. Okay, then it's gonna spin the wheel and it's gonna give you a nickname to use up there. Excuse me. Question. Is everybody in? No? Well, you have a name, you do. Is that okay?
Want a space between those numbers?
So are you good with that?
I can put on.
Do you want to spin? Okay. Ooh, that's a good one. So you want to say?
Okay, go.
Okay, all right. You're in, all right. You only get 3 tries, I believe, so.
Yeah.
I'm picking your name.
I'm Crazy Tiger.
Everybody get it?
I'm trying to get that. Hold on, I can spin it. Oh, no, wait. I'm crazy. No, I told you to spin that.
Oh.
I'm trying to get that, gentlemen.
I'm Blue Bobcat.
There you go. What are you, a dynamic elk? Yeah.
Dynamic elk,
All
Blue
right.
Bobcat.
So your nickname's gonna show up here so you can see where you're at. So I chose this method this time because we wanted to make it fun and interactive. Also, we didn't want to focus so much on the bottom line going forward because the amount of our state funding for the next 2 years is not yet determined. Of the $28 million in revenue that we receive annually, over 50% of that comes from the state. So it's a very important number in our forecast. The 2-year budget that funds schools and the entire state is being debated currently by our state legislators. So far, we have the governor's version, we have the House version, it's in the Senate right now. They will head to conference committee, put it all together, and come up with a budget. The governor can then line item veto some items, and then it will pass. Well, hopefully it'll pass. Hopefully before June 30th. I think last year we didn't quite make June 30th, or maybe it was July 1st. So, also, I called this Fun with the Forecast. Actually, this is extra fun with the forecast. Because finally, it's not quite so grim as it has been in years past. So unless there's another recession or the state yanks the rug out or some other awful event occurs, the financial news has been coming in really good. Our income tax is strong. I just said about the school district income tax that's coming in really good. Real estate valuations are increasing. Yippee to the 20 mil floor. That is so important. It allows us to receive more revenue at our property. There's still health wanted signs all over town. We have new construction going in, so it's really exciting. We're going to be okay this year. We're going to be okay next year because we have all this ESSER money and it's plugging all the holes we have. So are we all logged in and ready to get started? Okay, can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a pitch.
So, extra fun with the forecast. Here we go. Oh, I'm sorry. You're supposed to quickly and accurately answer the questions. There may be more than one right answer. So, pick whatever you think is the best answer. The forecast is made up of.
Just touch the screen.
Yep.
Wait, only let me answer one thing.
And you only have 20 seconds.
You only let me have one thing.
Well, that's okay. You only one's fine. Okay. So, all of the answers here were correct. The forecast is made up of revenues and expenditures, money coming in, money going out, spreadsheet and notes, which if you didn't get them when I was passing them out, they're right here. You need to make sure that you have both,
You just get one of them.
Yeah, but that's all it
both the notes,
behind the MVPs.
because it explains all of the numbers. There's 5 years of estimated data going forward. There's 3 years of actual data that we've already seen. Okay, ready? Let's see what we did. Who's in the lead? Oh, the cute puffin. All right. So, moving on. Next question. What funds are included in the forecast? Okay, so let's see what we have here. Oh dear. I need to change up the instruction a little bit. I'm sorry. Okay, so the only thing in the forecast is the general fund. That's it, just the operating money. Yes.
I got it right.
Oh, that's for the second question.
Two row for cute puffin.
I'm not cute puffin.
You got a piece of pizza in there.
So grant funds, permit improvement, cafeteria, all those funds are restricted. So we can't really use them for general operating. Can't use them to pay the electric, or you can't use the title fund to pay the electric. So it's only the general fund. General pays everything. Okay. Alrighty, so let's see what we got here. Oops. Alright. And, oh, your puffin's still leading the way. Alright. Ready? Everyone ready?
Yes, because we're.
Next question. How often is the forecast updated? Okay.
In fairness, Joyce, we
Yes.
put off you know, we were putting it off though. You know, like a few times where you were like, I can't give you the 5-year forecast yet because we're waiting on these things. So I feel like that was a trick question. I mean, in fairness, right? That has happened.
I'm gonna say it was shocking because I've gotten more corrections.
I picked the
That's
best.
shocking.
That's when we went over it. I knew it was twice.
Right, right,
You must have
okay.
talked to her ahead of time.
No, I was running in here for the last second.
So, correct, May and November, it would make much more sense to do it like July and January. Because
That's
July,
what I think.
then it would
That's
be
what-
finished.
that's
Your
what I
fiscal year closes in June, then we could give you an update instead of May. I mean, I have 2 more months to go. And a lot happens in those 2 months. So you would think by May 9th, I would know exactly where we're gonna be on June 30th, but no, there's a lot of things happening going forward, so. And it's in law, it says May, November. November used to be October, but they changed it to November. That would really make no sense. They should have changed May to July, but that's our state, right? Okay, so let's see what we've got here. Ooh, Balance Gecko. Balance Gecko takes over. Okay, so ready for our next question? How reliable is the forecast? Okay, well, so I wish it could be accurate to the penny, but that's only for previous year's data. It really is an educated estimate. It does change by the day. Every day I get new information. So I'm always like, when the forecast is due, I'm working on it till that very last day because things keep changing every day. So, right, educated estimate, both of those are correct. Changes by the day. Balance Gecko's still in the lead. Okay, ready for our next one? Annual general fund revenues.
Okay, well, 28 million. As I stated when I first started talking, $28 million in revenues. Right. Okay, well. 3 people pick 2 million? That's like a month table. I didn't know. Okay. Okay, let's get us still in the lead. Okay, you ready for your next one? Fingers ready. Okay. So, where do we receive our greatest share of funding? Okay. Correct. State funding. We're over 50% of our general revenue comes from the state, so that's really important. Every district is different, but for us, we're going to receive $14.4 million in state funding this year, and hopefully, Jen was trying to teach me how to do overtime. So, our revenues, the Fair School Funding Plan, it was implemented for the 22-23 budget, and we're advocating for it to continue in the next budget. It's really important. Unfortunately, it was not fully funded, but it was phased in. And base inputs that they determined the Fair School Funding Plan were based on 2018. So that was 2018 data used in the 2022 and 23 school year. And they were thinking about using those next 2 school years, which is really hard when you think about all the inflation, how things have changed. It makes it difficult. So the House version changed. The governor's version used 2018. The House version has updated it to 2022. So that's really good. It's at the Senate right now, so we'll see what happens. Some more details about the Fair School Funding Plan. There's amounts. The Fair School Funding Plan was a methodology to figure out what it takes to adequately educate a student. So they developed a method, and there's only like 4 methods out there. Back when Strickland was the governor, we had the evidence-based model. This is kind of the same thing. So they look at what it takes to educate a student, the base education. So they figure 1 teacher for every 20 kindergartners, 1 teacher for every 23 students, grade 1 to 3, 1 special teacher, which is art, gym, music, for every 150 students. You get 1 principal for every 450 students, $37.50 for technology, $220.35 for supplies. And there's a whole bunch more inputs, but I just want to kind of give you an idea of what they did. So these are, it's not a requirement. It's not like you can only have 1 teacher for every, or 1 principal for every 450 students. This is just how they figure out what the dollar is. So every district can spend their money the way they want. Like if they want more teachers at the elementary level, less at the high school, it just depends on how they want to do it. This is just how they figured the dollars out. So the base cost for Norwalk, when you figure all this in, was $7,265.71. That was the base cost. So when you hear, they talk about the base, what the state pays for a student. Well, that's what the number is, $7,265. That's not what we actually receive for a student. Then they take that number and they apply the state share, which is a 40-60 split between property valuation and income tax. So they look at everybody's, well, they don't actually look at your tax return, but they get that information and they have a median number of what your income is. So they come up with a state share. So the state is supposed to pay 58.5% of that base cost number. This also is different for every district because every district is different as far as what, where their wealth is at. They have high property valuations. So it's different for every district. So that would mean we should receive $4,250 for every student, according to the plan. But remember I said it was phased in. They did not fully fund it. For whatever reason. They have plenty of money. They didn't fully fund it. So they only funded it $3,935, right? And to give you an idea, in 2019, we were funded $3,626. So it's not like it's been, you hear, oh, all this more money to education. $300 a student over all those years now. So that's my sideline on that, and we're going back. Okay, so let's see where we're at with that one. Q Puffin takes the lead. Ready for our next question? Where do we receive the least amount of funding?
Throw this out there. No, my answer.
What? Okay, so, sorry, this was really a trick question. I said least amount of funding, meaning that we're getting some funding, just the least amount, not zero. So that was a trick question, sorry, I just had to throw that in there. Our least amount of funding, we receive, of course, no money from the Huron County Commissioners or the City of Milwaukee.
That's fine. You said there was multiple choices that were right.
Well, sorry, but not on every question.
Soon to be Dr.
Some
Kish to argue that.
Some questions, not every question.
You're cute bumping, aren't you?
So, our federal funding, we usually receive around $1.5 million each year in federal grants. So our federal funds are all restricted, as I said. We have Title I for reading and math, IDEA, which is our special ed. We have ELL for English language learners. None of that money is on the forecast, remember, it's on the general fund. By the end of next school year, we will receive almost, well, probably more than $8 million in federal money for the ESSER money. So normally, $1.5 million in federal funding, we're gonna have an additional $8 million over these last 4 years from the ESSER money. That's made such a huge difference in what we've been able to do. We've been able to add more staff, different staff, start new programs, the literacy. It's eliminated our deficit because it wasn't restricted funding the way like our title and our IDEA was. So that was really exciting. Okay, Dynamic Out takes the lead. Next question, right? Okay, what's our biggest expense? Oh, no.
Hey, give it back.
Yes, this should have been a gimme, right? Of course, salaries, of course. So it's hard to have school without our teachers, our principals, our bus drivers, our custodians, secretaries, nurses, superintendent, and of course the treasurer to keep track of it all, right? So a note here, we're using our ESSER money to pay 6 elementary subs, the literacy coordinators, 2 permanent subs per building, our summer cleaning workers. So after next year, all these positions are either going to go back to the general fund or we're going to have to retake that. So I know I keep telling you about the ESSER money, but it's such a big deal in the forecast. It just has such an effect. All right. Dynamic Out, still in the lead. Okay, next question. Purchase services, which expenses? They're all right. These are all purchase services, which kind of goes to show you, when you look at the forecast, a lot of things get lumped into one line item. So professional development for our staff, liability insurance for school buses, utilities, gas, water, all of that. Contracted staff, which is our nurses, our technology, not Jen, our technology staff are all contracted staff. So there's a lot in there. So these were all right answers. This is one of the all right. Okay, Dynamic Out. And final question. Best outcome of a forecast. Oh, okay, you never want to have negative cash flow, and you never want expenditures to exceed your revenues, because expenditures is money going out, you don't want that to happen. So revenues exceeding expenditures and positive cash flow, those are the correct answers, but really, the most important answer was the picture up there, which was those happy students with their books, enjoying school, and that's what we're all about, right? So, let's see who our winner is, right? And Dynamic Out. Who's that?
That's good.
Come from out of nowhere.
That seems a little unfair.
Yeah, how did that happen?
And slightly reassuring.
Well, Dan,
Who's
you get the prize.
I do want to know it.
I was Mother's Day gift this hand, right?
Done.
Take a look. Can she get off the video?
Okay,
No
so
live stream, please.
Doing really good there.
that was fun. Okay. I can't thank you. Wait, let's turn it on. What's that? Okay, so now that we've had all that fun, let's look at some numbers real quick, which is, and I printed it out for you on this big piece of paper here. Because I can't hardly stand when it's on that little piece of paper. So anyhow, I just want to hit a few things here because like I said, we're not quite done with the year. There's still a lot out there that may swing us one way or the other. All of our property taxes in, we know that number's correct, that we've seen an increase, yes, 20 mil forward, really exciting, can't wait for next year. Tangible personal property tax, that's not a big one for us, we don't have pipeline or anything like that. So it's only like telephone lines and Columbia Gas, utility things. Income taxes in, that's doing really well, we're really glad to see that increase. Unrestricted state grants and aid, that's our state foundation funding. You'll notice that's not much of an increase from last year. As I said, there really wasn't much there. And then a lot of it's been restricted. So they want to tell us exactly how we should spend all of our state money, which is somewhat difficult, but then we have property tax allocation. This has only gone up slightly. This is our homestead and our rollbacks that you receive, the 10% and the 2.5% that the state reimburses all taxing entities on property tax. And I don't expect any major other financing to come in. The big numbers that you saw back in 2022 was the transfer from the federal funds not being here the year before, so we had to transfer money in. When you get down to the expenditure side, we've had a pretty good increase in salaries because part of this is we've moved a lot of our purchase service salary people, which we would hire people from North Point, like our speech person, our social worker, and we brought them into the district. So now it made our purchase services a little bit less. Remember, there was all that stuff in purchase services, and it increased our salary amount. Also, of course, just the general increases with salary. The school bus, capital outlay, you see that 192,000? The school buses that you approved last March of 2022, finally arrived this April. So we paid for that. So that moved that expense from last year to this year. And then finally, when you look down at line 6.01, this is the big line. I feel like we're going to break even this year. We're going to be right about break even. There's some things out there. Our Medicaid is being held up at the state level. We receive money for Medicaid eligible services, our speech, nursing, OT, PT. But the Medicaid program changed at the state level, and their software, for some reason, is not reimbursing the school district. So we haven't had a payment since January, and we're looking to not get our settlement. So we've got probably a $200,000 swing, whether that shows up this year or next year. So that might change things. And also severance is always a big one too. When our teachers retire, they receive severance. So it depends on when they ask for that to be paid out. So I am thinking we're looking at about break even. Same thing for next year, which is probably really as far out as we can go as far as accurately forecasting. And I think we're going to be just a little bit deficit next year, depending on, we have a federal grant application in. We were looking to use some ESSER money for that and some PI, but if the federal grant comes through, then we won't have to. So that, we'll be able to use some more of the ESSER money to offset for that. So. And that's all I have. Questions?
Thank you.
Comments? Concerns? Anyone? No?
Oh.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. A motion for approval for treasurer's reports, items A1 through 10. Second. Second. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes. Personnel.
Yes, I move for approval resignations. Tough losses for the district, quality people for sure. Melanie Bauer, she's actually taking a Spanish teaching position. She was a ELL aide for us, so good move for her. Tough loss for us. Same with the second line, Vanessa Berry. Personal move is why she's doing this. She would love to be here, but in 2 short years with us, she's clearly shown she's great with kids, and her test scores with her students show top notch. So she's an unbelievable person, unbelievable as a high school student, and she didn't disappoint. And like I said, good for her. And a personal move that's going to take her elsewhere, unfortunately for us. Douglas Clark is a bus driver, is due to retirement. He is going to be resigning, and then Morgan Savage is the EPAC coordinator effective the end of this month. Number 2 is the employment of Larissa Sherman. She will be a teacher at Norwalk High School. She actually is the older sister of Vanessa Berry. So we said we lose one Berry and gain another Berry. So Sherman is her married name, but so anyway, sister's there, and very happy to have her join the Norwalk High School staff in the math department. Number 3, we have employment of Ken Moore, Rosalie Smith as home instruction tutors, effective today. Started with individuals this afternoon. Number 4, that is the employment of those individuals helping with summer cleaning and painting in the district. So making the improvement and obviously getting our buildings in good shape, ready for the 23-24 start. So we have a combination of individuals that work for us currently, and then we have some that actually are going to be class of 2023, soon to be graduates, and college students as well. So that's who comprises that list. Number 5, we have extended school year instruction. These are individual students these teachers are working with. That is Ann Day and Sarah Fury. Number 6, you know these 2 ladies well. They presented in front of us. Jenica Reamer, Beth Scheid have been a huge plus for our district. With 10 additional days with support of ESSER funds, we'll be working with the Wonders reading series as well as dyslexia compliance legislation, which is coming up. So that's critical work they're doing, and we just had district leadership team meeting, and everyone vouches for the work of those 2 ladies. So you definitely are getting your money's worth with those 10 additional days beyond the teacher contract. Have a series of coaching and advisor positions here listed. 7 is the supplemental contract. So these are individuals that currently work for the district and will be in a coaching capacity. So boys basketball in the head coaching positions, Adam Kreischer. Girls basketball, Brock Manlett. Girls bowling, Ray Scheid. Cross country, Stephanie Pope. For football, we have Jeff Burkett and Joe Kaiser. They are assistants with Keith Morris staff. Boys golf, Wes Douglas, Derek Pigman. Girls soccer, Michelle Sandor. Volleyball, Kelsey King and Rachel Schlatter. In the assistant coaching capacity. For Norwalk Middle School, we have Academic Challenge, Becky Fries and Penny Lassen. Art Club, Heidi Hovestad. Marching Band, Melissa Delberti. Student Council, Callie Baker, and Yearbook, Ray Scheid. Main Street, we have Academic Challenge advisors, Abby Bullion and Allison Schnell, and Student Council, Kelsey King. Special contracts at Norwalk High School. These are ones who do not work for our district, that are lay coaches that provide massive support for our team. So boys basketball, we have Brian Hill, Wes Sellers, and Matt Webb. Girls basketball, Chris Harkness. Boys bowling, John Wade. Cheer, this was just offered and accepted yesterday, so that was new for some of you that were looking at your agenda just a day ago, is Mallory Malson. She will be both the fall and the winter advisor, so that'll be for football and for basketball. Faculty manager continuation, Steve Gray has been in that position. He will continue in such position. Football, additional assistant coaches, Brian Hill, Brandon Byock, Joe Widman. Girls golf, Kate Brucher and Melinda Soyson Calhoun. Boys soccer, continuing with Wes Sellers. He's a huge asset for the district. He's our head soccer and mentioned earlier, assistant Mr. Kreischer with basketball. Girls soccer, helping with Michelle Sandor is Hannah Duncan. And girls tennis, our head coach is Harry Love. Eric Mozina, assistant coach. Volleyball, our head coach, Sarah Kipp. Aaron Kramer is assisting her. In wrestling, continuing on for another year. Fortunate to have Eric Metzger step up in that position, and Tracy Hibner will be his assistant. We have a handful of volunteers that are helping out in the different sports as well. Chris Higgins, Troy Pittenger, Dave Renberg, and Rebecca Weinman for the various sports. At Main Street, we have Amy Bergman, Academic Challenge Advisor, Kyra Cagle. We had just hired her through North Point to be the Main Street School Counselor. So in her first year capacity, she will also be leading the students with Student Council. Number 10, that is a correction, Beth Lesh. Evidence was provided to us as to why she should be at step 3 rather than step 1. So that's actually paying for this current 22-23 school year, completing with the track season that's currently happening. Number 11 is a stipend for Rhonda Ray Snyder, Main Street School, serving as yearbook advisor for the upcoming school year. So that is the completion of personnel, President Wake.
We have a motion for approval for personnel items A1 through 11.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes. Superintendent's
Yes.
report, I'm sorry.
Let's get started. I was waiting for
I
the
was waiting
segment.
for you, and I'm like, oh, I gotta say it.
So the first one actually is the agreement with Garmin Miller, who had the presentation before us. Nice situation offered to us is deferring the payment. So all the work that's putting into this, all the legwork that's happening, that will be deferred until we actually have money in our pocket via the state and or the building project commences. So there will be nothing from the district with those services until we are actually ready to start. So that was a good thing that happened. So like I said, I'm very happy, and I think you've seen what Garmin Miller can offer us, and that'll be good for our district. Number 2, we actually have several students, and that's why that agreement needs to be in place and approved. College Credit Plus for several students, and it could be more, that are taking classes through Mount Vernon Nazarene University. The third and final one, we have Coach Manlett and the girls basketball team. They will be headed to Bluffton, and because that is an overnight camp, that has to be approved by the board. So that is the final item for my superintendent's items for approval.
Thank you. Need a motion for approval for superintendent's reports, items 1 through 3. Second.
Second.
Discussion.
That was really a wonderful presentation. I feel completely different than just every year, or every presentation we've had the last year.
Right.
And strong on your part to ask for that, for them to hold off their fee. Really appreciate that. So just want to say that's all great.
Roll call.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yep.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes. Okay, board discussion comments, EHOBE news.
I'm sorry, before you go into, I did have a question. You had, that grant? That was
Yes.
The security grant?
Yes.
Do you want to say anything about that? Or-
So yes, we had it through the state. We, in round 5, have earned, and I think some of you with the newspaper, I know both, that we had talked, $600,000 our district, which is very significant. When we receive these grants, obviously we can offset other things. So Mrs. DuPont spoke on this energy grant of close to $3 million. If we would land that, what that would do, because it allows some of our monies to be used elsewhere. Same case here. We're looking at safety items that would have to be addressed in our district, and now this is a grant through the state. So with $600,000, there are several items that we have on the books. We've talked about, from security badges to exterior lighting to radios, district communication, because the focus is very much facility upgrades and communication. And the last part we're very excited to offer will be looking to have GPS on our school buses. So Mr. Bauman can speak on this. I know he's been an integral part of that, but basically a parent will know exactly where that bus is. So if the bus is delayed, if you have weather conditions, if you have a long trip, and I'm coming back from Tiffin Columbian and it's not where on the time-wise you think it should be, you'll know exactly where your child is on that bus. So that GPS on each bus is a significant item, And those are kind of the four main plays that we intend to use with that 600,000.
I'm glad you talked on that, because I think a lot of people miss it if they don't come to all the board meetings and see the little things that have happened in the last, I would say, even year, because of you, Mr. Ballman, Joyce, you guys working together. You've brought more in the last few months to the district that I just don't want to go unrecognized. I mean, that was huge. And then I don't know if you want to say anything about the other thing that we talked about, the agenda meeting, but I personally am just so thankful to this administration and all the things that we've had going in the last few months. It's honestly very impressive. It's a lot of work, and you should be recognized for it.
Yes, we actually, it was yesterday, met kind of a final meeting with the Boys and Girls Club of Northeast Ohio to finally, I guess, ink, to have our club come to Norwalk. So that's been a process, since early last fall, a lot of planning, so that is going to come to fruition, so not sure exactly when the summer program's going to start. We're hoping mid to late June at the latest, and continue through the school year. So it'll be an after-school program for students K through 6. We're very excited about it and what that's going to bring to the community, what's going to bring to the school district. So, they are very excited and very committed. They see Norwalk as a very promising, much needed for sure, like a lot of communities. And the other part of that, when you talk about funding, is that the Boys and Girls Club of Northeast Ohio submitted a 21st Century grant, I guess on our behalf or with us. If that comes through, we won't find out until August. If that comes through, that is going to be a wonderful way to fund the Boys and Girls Club in the future. So in the meantime, we're working on, gathering local support through foundations, and the Boys and Girls Club have been very, very helpful with that. They've been through, the process, and they know, what's needed, and then they've been very helpful. So very excited.
As far as staffing, that'll be coming as postings. We're looking for a director, assistant director, and essentially 5 teachers. So 5 teachers that will work with our kids. It's very fun in the summer because it's more of a camp oriented. They take trips, you do fun things like you expect when you send your kids on summer camping adventures. So that's very exciting. Mr. Kish was part of district leadership team. He heard that. We have interest even in-house. So there's nothing beats having people that are educators that work with kids that are top quality to continue in that capacity. So looking at the summer program, looking after school hours, it is possible. When you look at Boys and Girls Club, generally it's another group because you look at the time and how consuming it is to be an educator and then to do that on top. But we have people very much willing to do that, and we have top quality people actually we're targeting potentially for a director's position that we think would be great. Obviously, it's their outfit. We provide the venue, but we want Norwalk people that are committed to this community and the kids here. So we're very excited for that. And like I said, the information push will be coming more at the end of May as far as what is it going to be for parents to sign up your student, because it will be first come, first serve, looking at currently 75 capacity.
Yeah, the maximum is 75 at this point.
So yeah, a lot of exciting things. And like I said, I'm pulling from district leadership team meeting. I see some people that have shown a lot of interest, and that's exciting.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I didn't mean to get
No, I just have 2 quick things. First, to begin the registration for the summer workshops for the kids, having sessions in the morning and then sessions in the afternoon. I believe the cost is $65 for each. Also, the graduation is going to be the Memorial Day weekend on May 26th and 27th. I think they have like 4 or 5 different graduations according to the majors.
Legislative report. I know you touched on that one earlier. Anything else?
There's actually, it's pretty busy down at the state level right now.
Well, yeah, they've been on break.
Well, they're back. They're back now. So one of the things I had just sent, actually Senator Manning contacted him yesterday to ask the catastrophic costs. They talked about some of the unknowns that we have coming forward, and I just wanted talk a little bit about catastrophic costs. This is our extremely high dollar students that have a lot of needs that are serviced in school districts now. And we're able to claim over, for category 5 students, anything over $27,000. Category 6 students, anything over $32,000. It used to be a state appropriation that you applied for, and any expenses over that amount were distributed throughout all the districts in the state. Well, with the last budget bill, they changed that. Instead of just being extra money from the state, they're withholding 10% of every single district's special ed funding. So like we received $1.4 million in special ed funding from the state. They withhold 10%, $140,000. And then we have to apply to get that money back to this catastrophic cost program, which only funds over those dollar amounts. So last year, we ended up losing $4,000 on this catastrophic cost program, which also was a lot of work, especially for Jennifer King, our special ed department, my EMS coordinator, Jill Federal. There's a lot of work that's involved because you have to track every single student, and you have to track who their teacher is, what their FTE is, do we ride a school bus, what are their costs. So there's, and then ODE also has all this work too that's involved with it. So, and there's no district anymore that this is actually beneficial to. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of administrative costs for us to all lose money. So, if you see your senator, or actually if we can get this into the budget, it would be something that would be really good because the unintended consequences of the change that they made with it in this last budget bill just hasn't been good. So I'm hoping Senator Manning's aide or something reach out to me because I would really like to go. It's confusing. I know I just kind of glossed over that, but it is kind of confusing how the program works, and it's not benefiting any districts. It's causing us all a lot of work. It's causing OD a lot of work. Yes, I do. So, I understand that. Okay.
Well, before we move, make a motion for executive session, we need to set up a special meeting before our next board meeting for the topic of drug testing. So if you can look at your calendar, I figure it's easier now to schedule this with us all here instead of through emails and text messages. I'm gone the week of May 22nd, so that week's out. So our next board meeting is June 13th. So somebody want to throw a date out there? Or?
My availability is always, 6 and over Monday through Thursday and all day Friday. Whatever you guys want, I can make.
So this be before the 13th?
Yes. The plan is to have them.
Potentially, or have the presentation that we had during that work council. Not that a decision would be before the board, then it would be a presentation, then there would be a decision as to whether that's going to be looked at 23, 24, or the timing would not be right. We wish to.
Should we have the presentation before we have the work session? To have the information before the.
And like I said, they're willing to come to the work session.
Oh, I
and that
see.
part.
I apologize.
But obviously, it's going to be the decision of the board as to, do we want to look at that for this coming year, the following year, or, so that's going to be up to determine. But with the work session, we just need to make sure that's in place that they're available. So the two individuals, Jeremy, that are at the council meeting, that day worked for them too. So if we could find a couple dates, potentially.
Yes, to give them.
Yeah, options.
Okay, yeah.
I'm out the week of the 5th through the 9th. I've already had the meeting,
right?
So I'm for it. But I'll be in Fort Benning, Georgia between the 5th and 9th.
If I'm offering dates, I would go more like June 1 and 2. Just because of the close of the school year and with the students.
He said dates of first or second of June. I'm fine with either of those days.
The second, I'll be giving a
Second
fire class.
We have a choice, I'm going to go to first, Thursday to
I think Thursday, June 1st should work for me.
Will they come later, or what are their hours?
Yes, they would. They'll definitely accommodate.
Do you want to see a June 1st? I know that's only one date.
Yep.
But there are a few.
Yeah, we can start, and I'm sure they have more
Probably
than just,
those.
we had the CEO and then his assistant essentially. So I'm sure they have several representatives. So they're
Might
very-
not, yeah, because it would have to be, yeah, the earliest I can make would be 5:30.
So that's fine.
So June 1st, 5:30 is what we'll shoot for, and then I will communicate to you hopefully tomorrow with confirmation on
So
that.
let's have a backup, just in case.
I really don't want to do it without all of us here, if we can avoid
I
that.
mean, so we're looking in the following week. We'll pick a day on
That
that.
Jeremy's gone the fifth
I'll
and the
do
ninth.
for
Oh, I'm
You
sorry.
want it before the
I wrote it
board
down
meeting on
and
the 13th, though?
I wrote it down.
Yeah, I mean, it
I mean,
could
so
be
it's-
that Monday,
But
but
we could do Monday and the 12th,
Well-
but let's cut it kind of close.
It's just backup.
first to the 12th and first being preferred pay. At 5:30 on June 12th, but we'll try to shoot for June 1.
And where are we having it at?
We can be here. We can be here.
June 1st, Thursday, 5:30 here. All right, now I just need a motion to move into executive session. There will not be any motion after as far as coming out with any voting. Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzendorf? Mrs. Wick?
Oh, yes.
So I don't know. Just from
Oh, oh.